Hello, Flat Earth researchers, debaters and debunkers. All these demands for Flat Earth maps and a working model and alternative explanations for the heliocentric model with all these distances to celestial objects and everything all worked out is merely a distraction from the really important matter of the here and now. So any pursuit of a particular model or trying to really and truly define what the Earth is, where it is, when it was created, how it all came about, and of course why, is rather futile, really. It is a distraction because it's taking us away from the here and now, and it's getting us to focus our attention on something that's impossible to answer. But of course, this is what we are given to understand as being some kind of truth of the matter. And this is why it's very difficult to let go of the globe idea and the whole creation story that goes with it. Again, it's been said before, but the whole heliocentric model and its assumed origins are just another creation story, no different to any other religion. So even someone claiming to be an atheist is actually being religious about that belief of themselves, because they predetermine that there is no creator or creation, or there is no purpose, or there is no God. Okay, most religions focus on having a God, and of course the heliocentric religion tries to say that basically gravity is the God of this model, and then that is told as being our scientific reality. But that is just the word science being used to replace the other stories that go with any other religion. All these explanations and descriptions for how things came about, the moon or the stars and the planets and what they are and why they're there, etc., or trying to describe how they work is all well and good. It's all part of a natural process of curiosity. But ultimately, anyone who takes a serious look at this and is able to detach from that globe Earth belief or heliocentric belief, then we can see that all these different interpretations or models are just that. They are all possible explanations and descriptions, regardless of what distances to celestial objects and the sizes that they are, and the actual size of this system we find ourselves in. It never amounts to any real answers. We simply must understand that we can't really know where the sun is, what it is, or how far away it is. But of course we can calculate ideas with models, and all those models ever do is illustrate the passage of time as designated by the sun, moon and stars that we observe on the Earth. That's what we do, whether it's the seasons or whatever. So of course there are alternative ways, for example, to how the seasons work. It is just a case of the focus of the sun's light, or its distance or angle to the Earth, which can be achieved with many different illustrations, whether you're talking about the heliocentric tilt of a globe, or the spiraling concentric circles of zetetic astronomy, for example. These are This is just examples of ways that it can be interpreted. How much truth they hold in being fact is also kind of irrelevant. So once we've realized this ability to make observations and then interpret those observations in a variety of different ways, we can then move on from that. We can know that we're on a stationary level plane. We're certainly not on a spinning ball Earth, and but we also know that there is a limit to how much we do actually know about this place. Of course, we can make physical explorations and try to discover more land if there is any. But essentially, for 99.9% of the people looking into this or somehow involved in the globe Earth versus flat Earth debate, as it were, physical exploration and taking oneself to the Antarctic and beyond is probably not part of the scenario. So what can we gain from this apart from pontificating about what might be the limitations of an enclosed system, or simply boundaries that we haven't yet explored beyond? Of course, the other thing is the inner journey. So I'm talking about this distraction that we have from the here and now when we try to think about what's beyond our knowledge. So there's a phrase in Buddhism or Buddhist teachings, not a phrase, a story in Buddhist teachings to highlight the importance of the here and now and the insignificance and the irrelevance of anything that happened before. You have someone who has been shot by an arrow. They're badly wounded, in pain, arrow in the chest, and some people come to help. And of course the immediate concern of the here and now is possibly removing the arrow and fixing the wound up, making sure that this person doesn't die from blood loss. That's the immediate concern. But if the guy is on the ground with an arrow sticking out of his chest, demanding, "Who shot me? Why did they shoot me?" That is really kind of irrelevant to the situation he's in right now. So, you know, the creation, what created the situation, is of course worth contemplating at some point, but it's not the most significant thing about the event is the here and now and how to deal with it. So we apply this thinking to ideas about creation, a God, afterlife, eternity, all these things that we simply do not have any real knowledge of. These are not things that we could ever find out through what we would commonly refer to as science or physics, perhaps, nor through any other kind of spiritual or other ways of contemplating it. There simply aren't the answers to those questions. So, of course, we are asking ourselves all the time, how and why am I here? And of course, that's an important question. But just knowing that we are in an intelligently designed environment, we're not the only entities in it, we are surrounded by other living sentient beings, and each one of those beings or life forms is having an experience in this physical existence. And for the most part, most flora and fauna deal with the situation at hand. Everything is focused on the here and now. It is only us humans who would like to think of ourselves as being superior to the rest of the animal kingdom that want to try to figure out the how and the why and the when we are. And this somehow gives us some kind of meaning. superiority. But of course, we must actually ultimately humble ourselves with the realization and the knowledge that we can't do that. So if we're looking at the sun, moon and stars and trying to define a particular model, that's a distraction, really. It's something that may come about in due course, and it's certainly part of the process to scrutinize and realize that the heliocentric model is certainly not our truth and not our reality. It is a fantastic creation story in the religion of scientism that has been adopted by the religion of atheism as well, because it allows us to have this system that is powered or created without any apparent intelligent intervention. It all just came about, which really is ridiculous. In fact, the notion that the whole heliocentric system is powered by mass is really totally ignorant of everything else that we see as being part of this universe. Frequencies, electricity, magnetism, all these things are just okay, it's understood that they are part of what's going on, but they are not considered as part of the working mechanism that makes everything in the sky turn and go places. The only mechanism is mass, matter. Just mass is considered as the driving force that creates gravity, and then that's it. And this is supposedly some kind of perpetual motion created by a big bang that has formed into perfect synchronicity that we actually use as a clock. Yet that is completely, the rest of it, the rest of everything else that's going on is kind of, it's just a byproduct. Life took hold on this spinning rock. Absolutely insane when you really think about it. It is totally insane. It goes against everything we can observe and experience in a realm of common sense and common observation. It really is insane to be clinging on to this belief like you'd have to cling on to a rock that was spinning thousands of miles an hour. Flat Earth realization for what it is, as in realizing that we're not on a spinning globe, is great, and it's good to scrutinize and reverse engineer how the whole thing came about. Yeah. But perhaps we're never going to have answers to those ridiculous demands for maps and working models. Again, the globe Earth, it's considered a working model because there appears to be an answer as to what the driving force is, the energy. But what we actually see is frequencies, electricity. We have electricity in us. That's what we're driven by. There is no need for replacing gravity or the concept of gravity for the globe with anything else other than the fact that we are dense objects or people in a particular medium, a less dense medium of air. That's the only reason they have weight. And of course, that's because we're not trying to make a connection with the physics on the Earth to how it all works up there, how the big clock works, how celestial objects spin around each other, where they get their energy from and where they get their momentum from. But of course this is apparently solved as a question and a connection with the with gravity based on mass. Again, it's taken real world physics of simply requiring a force, an external force to push something along, and then that creates weight or gravity for whatever object is resisting that external force. So that's just that. It's just very simple, but that's been applied to the mechanics of the universe and the so-called solar system. And then it's been called a working model because we can prove that's how physics works on Earth. You need an external force. Hence, when gravity for the globe is talked about, it is thought about as being an external force, because it's all been lumped into one thing with all these equations. So, you know, to have us feel weight on the Earth is assumed to be another external force, but really it is just our mass, and you can describe that in terms of acceleration, or yes, it's a force. You have a downward force, you have acceleration towards the ground, but that's not because you're being pulled down by any external force, like you would have to push something along or pull something up. It is simply your mass in the presence of a less dense medium that creates the downward force and gives you this downward acceleration if the Earth is pulled out from beneath your feet. Yeah, it's really, really simple. You just don't need an external force. The force is already there because of your mass, and that is its inertia. A mass's inertia is the gravity, is the downward force. So yes, you need an external force to push it, but you don't need an external force to make you stick to the Earth, because it's not a ball, and so you don't need to consider that something else is making you stick in all directions around this ball. It's as simple as that. And of course, people assume that weight is created or caused by gravity. You can't have weight without gravity. But what people fail to understand is that weight and gravity are the same thing. They have the same meaning. But you're trying to explain the cause and effect and match it up with the Earth being another planet in this spinning solar system. I just think of that and it just, that's not what is happening in real life. We are not spinning, we are not moving, we're not going around the sun. Why should we be? The only reason we need to think of it in that way is because the heliocentric model was created with an idea of having the sun at the center, because the focus on telling the time on this Earth is done with the sun. That's all. So, again, the point is the here and now. The guy with the arrow in his chest must only really be focused on the here and now, and the same goes for all these debates and demands and flat Earth versus globe Earth arguments. It's all irrelevant. It's totally, it's just a distraction, and becomes just as much of a distraction as all the other mainstream distractions we have been trying to get away from. If you're anyone who's trying to seek some kind of personal development, then you'll have realized how much of a distraction all these things that we have in the world, like TV, politics, entertainment, Hollywood, movies, competitions, contests, even sports, what have you, they're all distractions. Money, assets, property, emotions, jealousy, pride, anger. These are all distractions, because these distractions occur when we're not focused. When we're not focused on the here and now. we might be doing something, we should do it well for a positive outgoing of energy which will be reciprocated and repeated. So there is a need, of course, not to just sit back and be in the here and now, but to do good, to do well, to put out positive energy in the here and now. And any time we're not focused on the here and now, when we are thinking about whether it's debts or arguments or you know, the how and the why and the creation story that led to all this, all okay, all good to contemplate, but it is a distraction because everything is changing right up until this moment, right now. There is no yesterday anymore, there is no tomorrow, and tomorrow will depend upon the actions that we take here and now. I think while we might be able to assume that we have paths laid out for us to take on our life journey, they can go a multitude of directions, and anything can happen, and it is creation occurs in the here and now. So we forget about the when and the where and the why and everything of the creation that occurred for us to be here and now. What we focus on is, what are we creating right now? Are we creating a scenario that's going to take us in this direction or that direction? So that's what karma is all about. You're doing in the moment, right here and now. And of course you put out negative things, and it doesn't matter if you're again, the arguments that people have about the flat earth versus globe earth, it consumes energy. You're not going to convince someone that doesn't want to be convinced. Yes, discussions and sharing ideas and theories is all great, but to argue with anger and this defensive attitude doesn't help anyone. It doesn't make any progress for anyone anyway. It's a distraction, yeah, and it builds up negativity. So we just focus on the here and now and what we can do in this moment to bring about positive change, because we know that there's a difference between doing good and bad things, although you could debate for eternity about what is good or bad, but we personally may not be able to be judges of that. That's maybe what we've got to again think about in terms of us being an observer. Yeah, we are observers, and this knowledge that we are observers of everything going on around us and of ourselves allows us to detach from the idea that our observations are a fact about how everything is. Again, we see the sun rise and set, and we are taught or conditioned to believe that the sun rises and sets because we are on a spinning globe. That's just an interpretation, a necessary interpretation for the model of the globe. But we do not experience that, and we do not see it that way. We see a level plane, and we see the sun coming up into the sky and traveling away from us. That is what we see. That's what we experience with the heat and the light that the sun generates from morning until noon, until dusk. That's what it's doing. How it's doing it and why it's doing it is pretty obvious, because everything on this earth needs the sun, and possibly things need the moon. But how it's working, the mechanics of it all, to assume that it's a big chunk of mass that is falling through empty space, and just so doing so with everything else falling around it in perfect sync is just that is insane. That's fantasy. It really is, and it's it's not the point. It's not, so demands for a working model can never really be met by anyone, because there isn't a working model in the first place. The only thing that is working about this is the predictability that comes about from long-term observations. So again, predicting eclipses and equinoxes and things, that's not exclusive to any model. That's just a silly argument. If you come, oh well, you can't predict the next eclipse, then anyone can, if they have that knowledge of the records that have been kept over the years to make those predictions. Yeah, and it still happens with the lunar eclipses. Organizations such as the Muslims will keep very concise records of when lunar eclipses occur, the crescent that is seen, etc. And this is all part of the ongoing record keeping that may have been going on for thousands of years. So again, that's not based on any model. It's just based on observations. But the problem is interpreting those observations so that we can come up with a creation story for our chosen globe Earth, flat Earth religion. It's all pointless. It's just get past that. If you want to move on from flat Earth, then that's what we have to do. We realize that it can be interpreted in many different ways, and we also realize that anyone who clings on to a model is just regressing to a point that is before the flat Earth realization. You go back again if you just cling on to one particular model and assume that you have all the answers. It's just acceptance that we don't. We accept that we don't have the answers. We also accept that it's nothing that anyone can ever have the answers to, and we accept that there's no need for that. And so we then focus on the here and now, and we do a better job of being in the here and now, and in the process we create a better future, because that's what we all are aiming to do, isn't it? People talk about space travel and things like this, and it's because there's this desire to improve things. And again, these globe Earth believers, anti-flat earthers, not necessarily nasty people. The nastiness comes out in the defense of the belief, and then the fight that ensues, or the assumptions that are made to make us feel superior because we apparently have all the answers to those what would otherwise be unanswerable questions. But they've never been properly answered, have they? Just so the simple fact that we understand and accept and surrender to the idea, the understanding that we cannot know, we cannot measure the distance to the sun. It doesn't matter. The numbers might matter for a model, but not really. It doesn't matter. The size of the sun is just something that can be assumed, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Really, it doesn't matter. What matters is here and now. So that's how I'd like to keep the interaction on this channel going. People who come along and want to argue and strut about with their model will be ignored, and just it's beyond that now. And I hope everyone else will be coming along for this further exploration of where we are. Thank you very much.